Welcome back to the Thoughts On series, where I verbally spew out my mostly raw thoughts on Destiny DLCs/seasons. Last time, I covered Season of the Splicer, where I basically said that the background lore was good and the activities were fun, but the in-game narrative wasn't. Without further ado, let's get into Season of the Lost. With a new season in Year 4 comes another H.E.L.M upgrade, this time right across from the Elixni Wing. The Awoken Wing serves the exact same function as the Elixni Wing with one big upgrade, the inclusion of a portal to yet another one of Mara's courts. In here you will find Mara Sov, the Lost Techians, and finally, Savathun. You heard me right, the Witch Queen herself. We'll touch on the greater story last. I don't have much to say on Astral Alignment because I didn't play it often as time went on, typically just doing it every reset until the quests stopped coming. I find it about as enjoyable as Override, maybe less so when the enemies are Scorn. The Ether section was a pain for a good while until players started actually using their brains. Dialogue's great, holds some very interesting stuff. The objectives are a pain to solo, but they are great with the team, Ether part being the exception if your team isn't coordinated. There are only two bosses, a Rifleman Trickster hybrid known as Krutix, and a spiky Taken Ogre whose name is Colts. Their boss fights can be annoying sometimes, particularly Krutix, but I didn't actually find them too bad. The Ogre I think is actually kind of fun due to the chaos all those Axion darts generate. The lore reason behind Astral Alignment is that you need to align cosmic bridges known as ley lines that are basically the paths between dimensions such as the material plane and the ascended plane. You do this so that you can perform an exorcism. No, I'm not kidding. This is a pretty good activity in my opinion, though I haven't played the legendary version, so my opinions beyond normal mode don't exist. I'm also going to throw the exorcism mission in here because that's essentially Astral Alignment, the sequel. I really like this mission, not for taking screenshots or taking in the dialogue because 6 players is a crowd, but everything else is great. I love the location, the music, even if I've heard it before, and the big rush to finish everything. I don't think it should have been delayed this long, but it is a very solid mission. The Shattered Realm is great for a multitude of reasons. For one thing, the dialogue is fantastic and gives you a lot of insight into what's going on in the background as well as how characters interact with each other. The boss fights aren't the best, but the settings are interesting, from the EDZ-like Forest of Echoes to the Ruins of Wrath, the best one in my opinion. The exploration, while initially hindered, opens up a lot and it really makes the second and third runs a lot more interesting. God, I just want to gush about the environments themselves. The Hive Warship in Ruins of Wrath is absolutely sick, and my only issue is that it has holes in its model, but the setting itself looks fantastic. So why are you doing the Shattered Realm? You are looking for Techians. You may be asking, Promethean, why are we searching for Techians? All but Setia are either dead or accounted for, with Setia herself being retaken every 3 weeks. Well, in Mara's abandonment of the Dreaming City conflict, Petra recruited a new batch of Techians to eventually go out and find her. They went out, and were promptly lost and found by Zuber Ralph's forces. So doing the Shattered Realm allows you to free them so that you can bring them back and use their power to perform an exorcism. I'm still being serious. I like the exploratory nature of the Shattered Realm, but I do feel as if some of the obstacles are a major nuisance, particularly the one that prevents you from using some of your abilities. What I also don't like is the fog. This has been a thing for the Ascended Plane since Forsaken, and it's really making me think that it'd be so much better if you just got rid of the fog and left it at that. I've died and seen the Sea of Screams without the fog, and it looks so much more ominous. Besides that, I think it's pretty good. I'm going to take a slight break and mention the events. They did not have to go this hard for Festival of the Lost. This one is probably the best one yet outside the very first festival. It has a brand new activity that may not be as good as Haunted Forest in my opinion, but it yields a ton of rewards. They also develop new music, as well as remixes of earlier music to match the haunted sector you find yourself in. There's also very interesting lore, and funny lore. I don't really have much to say about it other than I liked it. I might be biased since they finally gave me a Pyramid Mask though. Moving on. I've had a really strange relationship with the Dawning. I simultaneously consider it more and less than festival. This particular time, it's more of the latter. I don't really care for Dawning this year, and while circumstance may have played a decent part in that, there really wasn't much to grab my interest. The Warlock armor looked cool at least, and I'm glad people could still farm Wrathborn hunts. I just don't have much to say here either. It just kind of happened. I was under the impression that the 30th anniversary thing was an event along the lines of Solstice or Dawning. I was wrong. This thing is strange, so let me start from a content perspective. I think the weapons are overall very interesting, at least the ones that I've used. I do wish you could put the twin swords together though, that'd be sick. Dares of Eternity was also pretty cool, though part of me wishes that there were Fallen and Taken bosses to round out the roster. Other than that, it feels like a more zany version of Astral Alignment. It's strange as hell, but it was fun. Also gave us a bunch of new ambient tracks and a previously unheard variant of H.E.L. of what was. That's an automatic plus. I plead for all Taken music to be released. But that's all the free stuff. How about the paid stuff? Well, the thing is, I didn't buy it. Yeah, I don't know how Grasp of Avarice is. I've heard the music, it sounds good. I'm sure the dungeon team nailed it, they usually do, and my friends say they did. But I don't have an opinion beyond that for the content itself. But it does bring a question out of me. Why is it 30 bucks? After seeing how much I get for free, I'm left knowing that one exotic quest, a couple of armor sets, and a dungeon apparently cost $30. Normally I'm not one to complain about the price of a release unless it feels unwarranted. Shadowkeep was a $30 expansion, as was Rise of Iron. This having the same price as those feels really weird. Even tackling this from a seasonal angle doesn't make much sense. I got more content from Chosen alone for 10 bucks than I would from this. It just rubs me the wrong way. The free stuff is cool though. Season of the Lost picks off right after Splicer, and it does its damnedest to make it not suck. It starts by revealing the obvious, that Savathun has been Osiris for this entire year, which is still a dumb plotline and is probably my biggest reason for why we should kill her permanently. Anyway, with her being revealed, Mara trapped her in a crystal and made a deal. Mara will exorcise Savathun's worm from her body in exchange for the real Osiris as well as information on the Pyramid Armada. I'm not calling them the Black Fleet. Anyway, we help by doing the two things I mentioned earlier, aligning the ley lines as well as finding the lost Techians. As we do this, we're shadowed by Ikora and helped by Crow, who kind of feels betrayed as he thought he knew Osiris. Yeah, same buddy. Would have made for an interesting plot, but no, Amogus more important. Anyway, this is where my biggest issue with Lost's narrative rears its ugly head, with our boy Crow. It was inevitable that he'd find out he was Ultron Sov. It's been built up for a while, and that's besides the fact that we literally killed him 2 years ago. Throughout Hunts and Chosen, Crow would get more and more upset at not knowing who he was, feeling like us and everybody else did know and just refused to tell him, which is true. However, Lost is where us not telling him really starts to hurt the plot. There's something we did in Hunt that we haven't done since. Talked. There's another thing that the lore wants us to believe, that us and Crow are best buds. However, we haven't talked to him in-game since. I mean, it's kinda nuts. And us just doing our normal stay silent routine is really starting to hurt. There are so many things that we could just stop before they even happen, but instead it's like we're just a spectator. I get the whole silent protagonist thing, but since Forsaken, we've gotten our voice back. Since Shadowkeep, we were more than just epically saying things. I get time and money, but can we at least get a better series of events where we don't tell him? I mean, Mara doesn't want him to know, and she especially doesn't want him to get that info from Savathun. But no one does anything to calm what's obviously the rising storm of his emotions. It's literally the Lakshmi plot from Splicer, but under a different context. I swear, the Dark Vanguard and Osiris are the only smart characters sometimes. Anyway, Crow leaves after Savathun gives him info about his past, in probably the worst way possible, by having him feel it. Understandable. I mean, he seems less upset at us and more at the prospect that he might turn into Ultron, which is fair. However, Glint's a good ghost. I think he'll pull through. Also because repeating a plot line isn't good. This leads me to the other member of the Soth family, Mara. Have I ever mentioned how much I despise her? So last we heard from her, she had abandoned the Dreaming City to go fight the currently unstoppable Pyramid Armada. She failed miserably, or so I thought, and then said she was going to return to the Dreaming City. This was almost a year ago. Only now does she pop up, and not to stop the curse, no. Instead, she made a deal with the only being that can outthink her. Surely, this will go according to plan, right? However, I have to give the Awoken Queen props. She's simultaneously more and less likable this season than ever, and it comes from a place of mild truth. She finally admitted to us that she gaslighted former Awoken Queen Alice Lee, and she actually is trying to do something. However, one thing I didn't expect about this season is how everyone turned on Mara. I thought that we'd go into and out of this season with the majority ignoring the fact that she manipulated and groomed Ultron into who he was, making him easily manipulated by Riven. But instead, everyone in-game and out of it turned on her. I don't really have anything to say except good. I mean, seriously, this is a person who blames us for the curse on the Dreaming City, as if she didn't give the order to kill Riven. You know who could use an apology for that? Petra. Holy hell, I do not envy Petra. Trying to keep the rest of the Awoken breathing while her queen got lost for a year. Also, I will not take Petra slander here. She witnessed a corrupt Ultron do a lot of horrible shit. She just needs to see that Crow isn't him. Anyway, we finish aligning everything and find all 7 Techians. Everything is set, but then the story comes to a complete stop for over 2 months. Hopefully that time gap isn't canon, because Xivu Arath definitely has used the ley lines since. Anyway, in honor of the time management of this season, I will also be stopping the primary story summary and moving on to the stuff in the background. As we're doing Astral Alignment in the Shattered Realm, Saint 14 took it upon himself to look for Osiris himself, tearing the entire system apart while doing so. If anyone remembers his crusades, you'll know that there's nothing in his way besides time and literal dimensional barriers. He even got Mithrax to open a gate into the Vex network, basically doing a solo override to see if they knew where Osiris was. Oh, what a man. Holy shit. Saint's awesome, so I just wanted to point this out. Moving on, I mentioned Xivu Arath earlier, and yes, I meant it. Xivu Arath, Hive Goddess of War, undeterred by the Wrathborn plot failing, has begun her invasion of Sol by taking over her sister's stomping grounds. As her ships begin pulling through, Kaitl's there waiting. First entry of the lore book Ripples involves a new type of Hive ship, a Tomb Carrier, being assaulted by Cabal ships, and it's kinda sick. Xivu Arath is here at the behest of the Winnower. Entity. Anyway, the Deep itself has given her orders to find and kill Savathun for the interference she pulled during arrivals. The Winnower has also used the events of both Splicer and Presage to its advantage, pulling in the Taken and Scorn to help Xivu out. This is our Dark Alliance, and hopefully they won't last to see Lightfall because I only want to fight the pyramids. However, this leads to some interesting developments. The Scorn are now developing culture, and that is pretty cool. The Hive are also pulling away from Savathun, which is also fun. The Taken, they're just there. Xivu Arath is using them as cover for her own forces, which is actually smart considering the crutch the Taken are, as well as them not being her own soldiers. Speaking of enemies, Savathun is kinda weird here. She previously had plans to do something with the Dreaming City, as the curse was a prototype for something. However, we never get to see what that something was. The distributary was never found, and ever since this year began, Things that should logically break the curse have popped up, such as the entire season and the cryptoliths. Also, Savathun herself has apparently abandoned this plot and is now focusing on her Get the Light one that she completes in Witch Queen. While I understand the worm's hunger cannot be avoided, why? Why even start the curse in the first place? That being said, despite my feelings on her due to things like her history, I actually think she's a neat character this season. She feels calculating, like a goddess of deception would be, and not whatever she was in Splicer. She feels more deceptive in the season, where she's literally safe from all harm than she was last season. It's kind of ridiculous. She also lets us in on a few things regarding the entity, which I have an entire video on, so I won't be discussing it here. Before I move back to the conclusion of this season's story, I do have to compliment it. I think this is a decent season narratively, and it has some of the best character interactions, crow/player interaction being the only real exception, in a while. I found myself actually listening to the dialogue and being interested in what things meant or what came next. All of this build up for the winner is awesome. And Savathun, it's amazing how good her dialogue this season is. She says so many half-truths, and I don't think I've even found them all. It's also a case of not taking what she says at face value, but analyzing what she says. It's actually refreshing. That being said, let's move on to how the season ends. The final mission of Season the Lost, Exorcism, took way too long to get going. The connective ties to Witch Queen were not strong enough to warrant waiting until the very last week. I did say earlier that it was a fun mission, but it really should have happened in like November, or at least had more time to be released. The connective tissue to Witch Queen is not as strong as the delay would have had you think. Anyway, we face Kelgarath, Zero Rest champion, once more, and then exorcise Savathun's worm. However, right as the crystal breaks, Savathun switches place with Osiris. Yay, we get Osiris back. Damn it, Savathun got away. Mara kept the worm, Saint is tending to Osiris, and we all wait for the Witch Queen to make her next move. Meanwhile, Eris is probably fuming that we let it reach this point. Season of the Lost is a very strange season. It has the second best narrative of this seasonal year, Destiny, but it was brought down by an odd delay choice and the fact that it just didn't support a delay at all. This was not the best season to get stuck on. I think Bungie knew that, which is why the events went all out. I think the activities were great from what I played of them, though I do still feel the looming fatigue I get from playing this game, which has always been compounded with the cynicism I've accumulated over the past couple of years regarding everything, really. Speaking of cynicism dictating my outlook, Sony bought Bungie. I know plans all the way through the final shape aren't changing outside of budget, but I'll get worried anyway because I've seen a lot of bad things brew within business in the past year, especially. Hopefully it all goes well. This is just a weird time for me. I don't feel the same level of hype for an upcoming DLC that I've had in past years. When Beyond Light got revealed, I felt hyped. When Arrivals got revealed, I was super hyped, but when Witch Queen got officially revealed, and I saw the similarities to the leaks, I got worried. When Lost got revealed, I felt nothing. Obviously, my opinions of Lost right now are much more notable and positive overall. I have like 2 big negative things to say about it, and I think it is one of the better seasons we've gotten, but it's strange how this outlook started. As for Witch Queen, I'm intrigued, and I think the content and accompanying season will be good, or at least interesting, but it really is up to the campaign story to confirm or deny whether my fears were legitimate. I hope Witch Queen is good, because Beyond Light in this seasonal year felt like last year's mixed bag, but jostled and with stronger emotions on either side. Beyond Light felt like an unfocused tease. I felt the pain of Hunt's lack of content, even though the narrative was good. Chosen, the second season, was the peak, and if it weren't for my pyramid bias, I'd rate it over Arrivals. Splicer had such good content, but the in-game narrative was so bad, and I feel alone every time I think about it. Lost was good, but was brought down by the delays. Honestly, Bungie should consider delaying seasons if they're going to delay a DLC. If Lightfall gets a 3-month delay, then at least 2 weeks should be added to other seasons. Even out the additional days. Don't delay missions until the last week of the season. Even Splicer got that right. This season was good. I'm just fatigued. That's about it. If they do anything in the next couple days, I'm sorry, it's not going to get covered. The cutoff is Friday. Yeah. Peace.